Before the hashtags, before the gunfire, there was Korryn Gaines, a vibrant, unapologetic 23-year-old black mother, daughter, and advocate from Baltimore County, Maryland, a woman who, in life, refused to be silenced. She posted boldly on social media about police overreach, systemic injustice, and the importance of knowing your rights, particularly as a black person in America. She documented traffic stops. She confronted officers. She asked questions that made many uncomfortable. But what made her dangerous to some made her magnetic to others. Korryn was also raising 2 children, including a young son who was just 5 years old at the time of her death. Her videos often showed him nearby, not just as a child, but as a witness to the very system she feared. She was not a random figure. She had a following. Her online presence was raw and unfiltered. She shared her life, her beliefs, and her growing paranoia that law enforcement was targeting her. And yet, even among those close to her, there were signs of concern. Some saw her stance as fearless, others as spiraling, but no one, not her family, not her followers, could have predicted how it would all end. This is not just a story about what happened to Korryn Gaines. It's about what she stood for, what she feared, and how her voice, recorded in grainy cell phone footage and deleted live streams, became louder in death than it ever was in life. Welcome to Wide Eyes Media. This is the story of Korryn Gaines. August 1st, 2016. The address, 8700 block of Sulky Court, Randallstown, Maryland. Police arrived at the apartment complex just after 9:20 a.m. to serve 2 arrest warrants. One for Korryn Gaines, related to traffic violations and resisting arrest, and one for her boyfriend for a separate assault charge. But what began as a routine warrant service quickly spiraled into something else entirely. When officers knocked, they claimed no one answered. They obtained a key from the landlord, but when they opened the door, they were met with the unmistakable sound of a shotgun being racked. Inside the apartment, Korryn was armed, holding her legally purchased Mossberg shotgun with her 5-year-old son sitting by her side. Police retreated and called for backup. Hours passed, a SWAT team was deployed, a crisis negotiator was called in, and still Korryn refused to come out. Inside, Korryn was live streaming. On Facebook and Instagram, she spoke directly to her followers. She asked them to share her videos. She pleaded for visibility. She framed the encounter as a final stand against a system she believed had long targeted her. But soon, the live streams went dark. The Baltimore County Police Department contacted Facebook, requesting that her live stream be disabled in real time, and Facebook complied, removing her ability to broadcast to the outside world. Her voice was cut. Negotiations continued for 6 hours. According to police, Korryn pointed her weapon at officers multiple times. According to her family, she was terrified, trapped, and protecting her son. Then, at approximately 3 p.m., a shot rang out from inside the apartment. Police claimed Korryn fired first. What's certain is what came next. An officer fired 3 rounds. Korryn Gaines was killed instantly. Her 5-year-old son was shot as well, in the elbow and cheek, though he survived. No body cam footage exists. No independent video survives. What we're left with are conflicting stories, lost footage, and the silence of a young woman who once refused to be silent. The day after Korryn Gaines was killed, the narrative was already forming. Police said she had pointed a shotgun, that she had fired first, that they had no choice. But Korryn's family wasn't buying it. Her mother, Rhonda Dormeos, stood before a growing crowd of supporters and media microphones, demanding answers. She described Korryn not as a criminal, but as a young woman who had grown increasingly afraid of the police, and with reason. Korryn had filed a lawsuit against the Baltimore County Police Department just months earlier, alleging excessive force and unlawful arrest during a traffic stop. That lawsuit was still pending when police arrived at her door. To Korryn's supporters, that wasn't a coincidence, it was a pattern. Public outrage intensified. Protesters gathered in front of the Baltimore County Police headquarters, holding signs that read "Justice for Korryn" and "Black Women Matter Too." Activists from across the state and beyond began drawing connections to a growing list of names: Sandra Bland, a Tatiana Jefferson, Breonna Taylor, women of color whose encounters with law enforcement ended in silence. But the fight didn't stop at protests. In 2018, Korryn's family filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the county and the officer who fired the fatal shots, Corporal Royce Ruby. The central question: was lethal force justified? During the trial, the police testified that Korryn had aimed her shotgun, a claim the family challenged. With no body cam, no video, and no independent forensic confirmation, the case boiled down to conflicting accounts. Still, in 2018, a civil jury ruled in favor of the family, awarding $38 million in damages, including compensation for her son's trauma and the emotional pain of witnessing his mother's death. But that verdict wouldn't stand for long. In 2019, a judge overturned the award, ruling that Corporal Ruby was entitled to qualified immunity, a controversial legal doctrine that shields officers from civil liability in most cases. The $38 million disappeared. The family's hopes for justice were placed on hold. As the appeals dragged on, so did the silence from officials, and yet Korryn's story refused to fade. Her name continued to circulate in activist circles. Her image appeared on murals, at marches, and in conversations about the deadly intersection of Black motherhood, mental health, and policing. She was no longer just a headline, she had become a symbol, and for some, a martyr. Korryn Gaines is no longer here to speak for herself, but her story still speaks volumes. Her death lit a fuse, not as loud as others, not as widely televised, but no less urgent. In the years since that fatal standoff, her name has continued to echo through community rallies, murals, poetry, and social media. Not because the system changed, but because it didn't. When we talk about victims of police violence, the names that rise first are often men: George Floyd, Eric Garner, Tyree Nichols. But there's a quieter list, one that doesn't always make the headlines, and Korryn Gaines is on it. So was Sandra Bland, who died in a Texas jail after a traffic stop gone wrong. So was Denisha Montgomery, a Black soldier found dead in Germany under mysterious circumstances after reporting abuse, a case the military ruled as suicide, despite strong evidence suggesting otherwise. And yet, something happens when the victims are Black women. The stories are covered differently, the blame is assigned faster, the footage is released slower, the public attention fades quicker. Why is that? Is it because of how Black women are portrayed? Is it because the media doesn't see them as worthy of the same outrage? Or is it because this country has always struggled to see Black women as victims in the first place? These aren't just questions for a documentary. They're questions for you, the viewer. Do you believe Korryn Gaines was a threat or a mother in fear? Should Facebook have cut her live stream? Does qualified immunity go too far? And how many more names do we need before something changes? Drop your thoughts in the comments, not just for engagement, for accountability. These names, these stories, they can't just live in hashtags or headlines. They have to live in us, because silence is what allowed this to happen in the first place. This has been Wide Eyes Media, where we dig deeper and ask the questions others won't. The death of Korryn Gaines wasn't just a moment, it was a message. And whether you see her as a rebel, a mother, or a woman who just had enough, her story forces us to look at a system that too often chooses force over compassion, silence over truth. We will continue to follow this case, monitor new developments, and bring you verified updates as they unfold. If this story moved you, share it. If it angered you, speak on it. And if you have something to say, the comments are open. Wide Eyes Media, where we give a voice to the voiceless.